address complex conditions with simple, immediate solutions. Consider, for example, the time and resources schools across the U.S. have invested in attempting to narrow achievement gaps by training their teachers on culture or identity-specific learning styles, on the girl brain and boy brain, on the culture of poverty. We understand the lure of these approaches, as dangerous as they are. We share the sense of urgency that accompanies rooms full of students who cannot wait and should not have to wait for the educational revolution to come along before their learning needs are addressed more effectively. Although easy, practical solutions might be convenient, they also can do damage. Often, they shift the equity responsibility onto the student, focusing on fixing students' mindsets or grittiness instead of addressing the conditions that require some students to be more resilient than others. They are simple and straightforward, and unfortunately, often more a reflection of inequity than a challenge to inequity. For example, research has shown that teaching to particular learning styles is ineffective because students' learning styles and learning needs change depending on what they're learning, the context in which they're learning, from whom they're learning, and their confidence with the material, among other factors. Moreover, identity-specific learning styles simply do not exist. At any moment, the diversity of preferred learning modalities within individual identity groups, African American boys, for example, is just as great as the diversity of preferred learning modalities between identity groups. Complicating matters, a considerable portion of disparities in educational outcomes, such as academic performance and graduation rates, are symptoms of conditions that fall outside our individual spheres of influence as educators. We cannot control the racism and xenophobia students and their families face outside schools. We can, and we would argue we should at the very least be aware of these conditions and how they affect students' lives and school experiences. After all, these conditions also affect students' interactions with us and with the schools in which we work. Upon reading the scenario involving South Dovetown, it might be easy to think I have no control over the results of an election or bias in the community. That has nothing to do with school. If only matters of diversity and social justice education were that simple. When the meeting was almost over and Mr. Smith hadn't mentioned the election or the bias incidents, Miss Amaya decided to speak up. As soon as Mr. Smith asked whether anybody had new business, she raised her hand. "I think we need to talk about how this election is affecting our students," she said. Several of her colleagues nodded. A few others fidgeted uncomfortably in their seats. "Moreover," she added, "I think we need to take a stand against bias and bigotry. We need to let students know they are all welcome here. I don't know or care who voted for whom, but can't we at least agree we have a responsibility to all our students?" As a wave of chatter filled the room, Mr. Smith tried to regain control of the conversation. Okay, he said loudly. "Let's settle down. I figured somebody was going to bring that up. We are planning an anti-bullying workshop for our next professional development day, so things are in motion." "What about a public statement? We need to let the community know we don't support all this bigotry," Miss Samaya said. Mr. Smith responded, "As for that, we need to be careful not to enter the political fray. As a school, we can't take a political stand. We strive to be welcoming to all students, but a public statement might offend people who voted for Mayor Barton." "Well, I voted for Mayor Barton, and it would definitely offend me," Miss Allister, a language arts teacher, said angrily. "Whatever happened to free speech? I feel like I can't be honest about how this influx of Somalis and Hispanics has made it harder to teach the kids who are actually from this community. And a lot of it goes back to their parents refusing to learn how to speak English." There are no perfect answers or solutions when it comes to the complexities of diversity and social justice. Nobody has invented a magic formula for solving the issues swirling around South Dovetown. The scarcity of right answers underlines why we must develop and hone the knowledge and skills that help us to make